A woman walked into one of the busiest airports in the world. She checked in, smiled at the airline staff, and headed toward security. She was seen by hundreds of people, but she never reached her flight. 20 minutes later, she had simply disappeared. A woman disappeared in one of the safest places anyone could imagine. Not on a lonely road, not in a dark forest. Inside a crowded international airport. Thousands of travelers walked through the terminal that morning. Families hurried toward their gates. Business people checked their watches. Children laughed as they pulled small suitcases behind them. No one noticed the moment everything changed. Emma Carter adjusted the strap of her backpack and looked up at the departure board. Flight 417 to London. On time. She smiled. After 3 years abroad, she was finally going home. Her younger brother had called the night before. "Don't miss this flight," he had joked. "Mom has already cooked enough food for 10 people. Emma laughed at the memory as she rolled her suitcase toward the check-in counter. The airline employee greeted her with a friendly smile. "Good morning. Passport, please." Emma handed it over. A minute later, she received her boarding pass. "Gate 18. Boarding starts in 1 hour." "Thank you." Everything was normal. Completely normal. She stopped at a small coffee shop near the security entrance. The line was short. While waiting, she noticed an elderly man sitting alone by the window. He wasn't drinking his coffee. He wasn't reading. He was watching people. When Emma looked at him, he gave a polite smile. Then his expression changed. He stood up so quickly that his chair almost fell over. He walked straight toward her. "Excuse me," he said quietly. Emma nodded. "Yes?" The man looked at her face for several long seconds. "I thought you were someone else." Emma smiled politely. "It happens." The man didn't move. Instead, he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an old photograph. It showed a young woman standing beside an airport gate. She looked almost exactly like Emma. The same dark hair, the same bright eyes, even the same small mark near her left eyebrow. Emma felt a chill. "Who is she?" The old man slowly folded the photograph. "My daughter." There was silence between them. "I'm sorry," Emma said softly. The man looked toward the large windows. "She disappeared in this airport 12 years ago." Emma didn't know what to say. Before she could ask another question, someone behind her called out, "Next customer, please." She turned for only a moment to collect her coffee. When she looked back, the old man was gone. She searched the nearby tables. Nothing. The photograph. The man. Even the chair where he had been sitting. It was empty. Emma frowned. That was strange. She checked the time. 45 minutes until boarding. There was no reason to worry. Still, she couldn't stop thinking about the photograph. At the security checkpoint, everything went smoothly. Her bag passed through the scanner. Her passport was checked again. She entered the departure area. People were shopping. Some were eating breakfast. Others were sleeping across rows of seats. Life continued as usual. Emma found gate 18 and sat near the window. She opened her phone. No signal. That wasn't unusual inside the terminal. A notification finally appeared. One new message. Unknown number. Her smile disappeared. The message contained only one sentence. "Don't board flight 417 if you want to know the truth." Emma stared at the screen. A second message arrived almost immediately. "Look behind you." Emma slowly turned her head. Emma's heart began to race. She turned slowly. Rows of passengers filled the waiting area. Some were reading. Others were talking quietly. A little boy laughed as he chased his toy airplane across the floor. No one seemed to be looking at her. Then she saw him. The elderly man from the coffee shop stood on the other side of the glass wall outside the gate. He wasn't waving. He wasn't smiling. He simply pointed toward a blue locker near a newspaper stand. A group of passengers walked between them. When Emma looked again, the man had disappeared. She stood up without thinking. Her boarding pass slipped from her lap onto the floor. A young woman picked it up. "You almost lost this." "Thank you." Emma forced a smile, but her eyes stayed on the locker. Should she ignore the message? Or should she find out why a stranger knew her flight number? Curiosity won. She walked toward the locker. It had no lock on the door. Inside was a small brown envelope. Nothing else. She looked around. No one seemed interested in her. With shaking hands, she opened the envelope. Inside was another photograph. This one was newer. It showed Emma. She was standing outside the airport only 10 minutes earlier, pulling her suitcase. Someone had been watching her. Behind the photograph was a short handwritten note. "You are not here by accident." Emma felt her stomach tighten. Who had taken the picture? And why? A voice came from behind her. "Miss Carter?" She turned quickly. An airport security officer stood there. "Is everything okay?" Emma looked at the photograph, then back at him. For a moment, she wanted to tell him everything. Instead, she slipped the photo into her backpack. "Yes, I'm fine." The officer studied her face. "If you need help, we're here." "Thank you." He walked away. Emma watched him disappear into the crowd. Maybe she should have told him. Maybe this had gone too far already. Her phone vibrated again. "Did you tell anyone?" She froze. How could they know the security officer had spoken to her? She looked around. Hundreds of faces. Any one of them could be watching. A cold feeling spread through her. Someone was very close. She hurried back toward Gate 18. Boarding would begin soon. If this was someone's cruel joke, it had already lasted too long. As she reached the gate, she noticed something strange. The old man was sitting quietly near the window as if he had never left. Emma walked straight to him. "I've been looking for you." He looked up calmly. "I know. You said your daughter disappeared here." "Yes. Someone is sending me messages." The old man's face changed. "What do they say?" Emma showed him the phone. He read the messages without speaking. Then he gave the phone back. "They've started earlier than I expected." Emma stared at him. "What does that mean?" Instead of answering, he reached into his bag and pulled out a small silver key. "There is another locker." He placed the key in her hand. "Locker 214. "What is inside?" "I've never opened it." "Then how do you know about it?" "Because my daughter mailed me this key the day after she disappeared." Emma felt confused. "That's impossible." "I know." He looked tired. "For 12 years, I've been trying to understand that letter." Emma whispered, "You think this has something to do with me?" "I don't think." He looked directly into her eyes. "I know it does." Before Emma could ask another question, an announcement echoed through the terminal. "Passengers for Flight 417 to London, boarding will begin in 5 minutes." People immediately stood up and formed a line. Emma looked at the gate, then at the silver key, then at the old man. "If I miss my flight..." "You'll lose a ticket," he said softly. "If you board that plane..." He stopped speaking. Emma waited. His voice became almost a whisper. "You may lose the only chance to discover why someone has been waiting 12 years for you." Emma looked at the growing boarding line. Her passport was in her hand. Her dream of going home was only a few steps away. But the key felt strangely heavy in her pocket. At that moment, her phone vibrated once more. A new message appeared. "Locker 214 will be emptied in 10 minutes. After that, the truth disappears forever." Emma looked toward the boarding gate, then toward the long hallway leading to the lockers. She had only one choice, and no time left to think. Emma took a deep breath. Then she stepped out of the boarding line. A gate agent called after her. "Miss Carter, boarding has started." Emma looked back only once. I'll be back." She wasn't sure if that was true. She hurried through the terminal, holding the silver key tightly in her hand. The hallway leading to the lockers was almost empty. Her footsteps echoed against the walls. Locker 214 stood near the end of the row. It looked old. Almost forgotten. Emma checked the number twice. 214. Her hands shook as she slid the key into the lock. For a second, nothing happened. Then, click. The door opened. Inside was a small black backpack. Nothing more. Emma carefully lifted it out and unzipped it. On top was a notebook. Beneath it lay an old passport. She opened the passport. The photo stole her breath. It belonged to the young woman from the photograph, the old man's daughter. Her name was Sarah Bennett. Emma turned another page. A folded letter slipped onto the floor. She picked it up. The paper had turned yellow with age. The first line read, "If someone other than me is reading this, it means I failed." Emma felt a chill. She kept reading. "Someone inside this airport is making people disappear. They don't leave the country. They simply disappear from everyone's lives. If you found this letter, don't trust anyone until you know the truth." Emma's heart pounded. Footsteps echoed behind her. She quickly turned. The airport security officer was walking toward her. The same officer who had asked if she needed help. He smiled politely. "There you are." Emma quietly folded the letter behind her back. "I missed my flight." "I noticed." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "You've been moving around the airport for quite a while." "I'm just confused." "I understand." He looked at the open locker. "May I see what's inside?" Emma hesitated. Something felt wrong. The officer took another step. "You seem nervous." Before Emma could answer, another voice filled the hallway. "Emma!" The elderly man hurried toward them. He looked more frightened than before. The officer's friendly expression disappeared. For the first time, Emma saw anger in his face. "You shouldn't be here," the officer said coldly. The old man ignored him. He grabbed Emma's arm. "We have to leave. Now." The officer reached for his radio. "Security to Section C." Emma looked from one man to the other. "What is happening?" The old man whispered. "He's not calling for help." "What?" "He's calling the people Sarah was hiding from." Emma stared at the officer. His calm smile had completely vanished. He took one slow step forward. "Give me the backpack." Emma didn't move. The officer's voice became sharper. "Now." Instead, Emma opened the notebook. A folded map fell into her hands. It showed the airport. Someone had circled one place in red. Maintenance Tunnel B. The officer saw the map. His face turned pale. "Don't let them leave," he shouted. Two more uniformed officers appeared at the end of the hallway. Emma's pulse raced. The old man pointed toward a gray service door. "This way." Without thinking, Emma grabbed the backpack and ran. The service door slammed shut behind them. The narrow tunnel was dark and silent. Their footsteps echoed through the empty passage. They didn't stop until they reached another locked door. The old man leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "They're close." Emma looked at him. "You knew this would happen." He nodded. "I hoped I was wrong." "You've been hiding something from me." For several seconds he couldn't speak. Finally, he looked into her eyes. "When my daughter disappeared, she left one final message." Emma waited. He slowly reached into his wallet. Inside was a tiny, worn piece of paper. On it were only 7 words. "Find Emma Carter. She is the answer." Emma felt the ground disappear beneath her. "How could she know my name?" The old man swallowed. "That's the question I've been trying to answer. For 12 years. Behind them, heavy footsteps echoed through the tunnel. Someone was unlocking the service door. They had found them. The sound of the unlocking door echoed through the tunnel. Emma looked around quickly. There was only one way forward. "Come on," the old man whispered. They ran deeper into the narrow passage. The lights above them flickered. At the end of the tunnel, they found a heavy metal door marked Airport Archives. It wasn't locked. The old man pushed it open. Inside were shelves filled with old files, forgotten boxes, and dusty computers that no longer worked. For a moment, everything was silent. Then Emma noticed something on a desk. A small digital recorder. A note was taped to it. For Emma Carter. Her hands trembled as she pressed the play button. A young woman's voice filled the room. "If you're hearing this, my plan worked." Emma immediately recognized the voice from the photograph. It was Sarah. "I don't know how many years have passed. Maybe 5. Maybe 10. But if you're here, it means you found the locker." Emma listened without moving. "My father will probably be with you. If he is, tell him I'm sorry." The old man's eyes filled with tears. Sarah continued. 12 years ago, I discovered that a criminal group was using this airport to move stolen identities across different countries. People weren't disappearing. Their identities were." Emma frowned. Sarah's voice remained calm. "I collected proof. Before I could give it to the police, they found me." The recorder became quiet for a second. "I couldn't trust anyone, not even airport security. So I gave the evidence to someone I believed they would never suspect." Emma's heart beat faster. "Your mother, Emma?" Emma stared at the recorder. "My mother?" "She worked with me for only a few months. She promised to keep the evidence safe until the right time." Emma's memories rushed back. Her mother had worked at this airport years ago. She had left suddenly but never explained why. Sarah continued. "Your mother knew they were watching us. To protect you, she never told you the truth. She changed jobs, moved away, and stayed silent." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Before we lost contact, she told me one thing." The recording paused again. "If anything happens to me, one day Emma will finish what we started." The recorder clicked. The message was over. Emma couldn't speak. Everything suddenly made sense. The messages, the photographs, the locker, her mother's silence. The old man gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "My daughter trusted your family." Before Emma could answer, the archive door burst open. The security officer stepped inside with 2 others. "It ends here," he said. He looked at the backpack. "Give me the evidence." Emma slowly zipped the backpack closed. "No. You don't understand." "I understand enough." The officer took another step. Then another voice came from behind him. "Nobody move." Several police officers entered the room with their weapons raised. The security officer froze. One detective walked directly to Emma. "We've been investigating this group for years." He looked at the recorder and the backpack. "We followed the messages after someone anonymously contacted us this morning." The old man smiled through his tears. "I finally trusted the right people." Within minutes, the corrupt officers were arrested. The evidence inside the backpack connected them to years of identity theft and many other crimes. The investigation continued for months. Families finally learned what had happened to relatives they had believed were simply gone forever. Some people were found alive. Others finally received answers after years of painful questions. Emma returned home on a different flight. When she walked through the arrival gate, her mother was waiting. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then her mother whispered, "I'm sorry I had to keep the secret." Emma hugged her tightly. "I know." They stood there, holding each other while travelers walked past. Some stories end with a goodbye. This one ended with the truth. Months later, Emma received one final letter. It came from the old man. Inside was a recent photograph. He was standing beside a small memorial for Sarah. On the back, he had written only one sentence. "The missing were never forgotten. Someone simply refused to stop looking." Emma smiled. She placed the photograph beside one of her mother's old airport badges. Some journeys begin with a boarding pass. Others begin with a mystery. Emma's began with both. The end. Thank you for reading.